Questions. Sometimes life feels like a never-ending press conference. You say something, and then you have to explain why you said it. Questions. You do something, and then you have to explain why you did it. You don't do something, and then you have to explain why you didn't do it. And by the end of the day, questions. We are so busy explaining ourselves that we forget to live ourselves. My dear friends, the day you stop explaining yourself is the day peace walks into your life. Questions. Because when you stop living for everyone's understanding, you start living for your own inner standing. Serotonin. Questions. Humorous yet wise people judge you not because they understand you, but because judging is free entertainment. Questions. You don't have to pay rent in other people's minds by constantly trying to prove your worth. Even when you explain with your whole heart, people only hear from their level of perception. Questions. Not your level of intention. So stop wasting your energy to make the blind see your vision. Sometimes your silence speaks more loudly than your words. When you stop defending yourself, questions. Your peace becomes your proof. We've been trained to think, if they understand me, I'll be at peace. But the truth is, if you are at peace, you won't care who understands you. Questions. Approval is a cage. Peace is freedom. We keep asking, why don't they get me? But have you taken the time to get yourself? When you understand your motives, your choices, questions, your heart, you don't need others to stamp their approval on it. When your sense of worth depends on auto-validation, life becomes a roller coaster. When praised, down, when criticized, questions. But when your worth comes from within, no comment can shake your calm. You are a person to be experienced. The right people don't need explanations. They feel your sincerity. Questions. The wrong people won't believe you. Even with PowerPoint slides, when you evolve, your circle might shrink, and that's okay. Growth confuses the people who knew your past version. Questions. Don't dim your light to make them comfortable in their shadows. Key idea 9: refocus on expression, not explanation. Live so beautifully that your actions express what your words never could. Questions. Because when your life is your message, explanations become unnecessary. There is a deep freedom in not needing to be understood. You smile more. You sleep better. Questions. And you attract people who love you, not for your explanations, but for your energy. In classic Gaur Gopal Das style, insert a parable or real life story. Let me tell you a small story. Questions. Once a monk was walking through a village. People mocked him, insulted him, called him names. He smiled, bowed, and kept walking. A man ran up and asked, "How can you stay so calm?" Questions. Don't you want to explain to them who you are? The monk smiled and said, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, whom does it belong to?" The man said, "Questions, to the one who offered it." The monk said, "Exactly, their words are their gift. I simply didn't accept it." Questions. In life, we spend so much of our precious energy trying to explain ourselves to people who have already made up their minds about us. We try to justify our decisions, our dreams, our lifestyle, questions, our choices, hoping they will finally say, now I understand you." But have you noticed? The more you explain, the less they understand. The more you justify, the more they question. Questions. It's like pouring water into a cup that has no bottom. No matter how much you pour, it never fills. The truth is simple yet profound. Not everyone deserves an explanation. You see, questions. Explanations are an investment of your energy. You don't explain yourself to everyone for the same reason you don't hand your house keys to strangers. Questions. You only do it for those who live with you. The people who have earned that trust, who genuinely care to understand you, not those who simply want to judge you. Questions. Let's take a simple example from daily life. Imagine you decide to start waking up early to meditate or exercise. Suddenly someone says, "What's wrong with you?" Why are you becoming so serious? Questions. Are you turning into some spiritual guru? And what do most of us do? We laugh nervously and start explaining, no, I'm not becoming a saint. It's just for fitness, just for my health. Questions, you know. But do we really owe them an explanation? Not really. Because your lifestyle change is your personal evolution, not their public entertainment. Questions. Or think about someone deciding to quit a high-paying job to start a small business or follow a passion. Immediately, society starts a conference. Why would you leave such a stable job? Questions. What about your future? What about your security? And that poor person begins a marathon of explanations, convincing people who never even believed in their dream in the first place. Questions. But here's a question worth asking. Why explain your dream to people who are still asleep? When Gaur Gopal often says, questions. Don't let people who do so little for you control so much of you. It hits deep. Because every time we bend our truth to fit someone else's understanding, we shrink ourselves. Questions. We dim our own light to make someone else comfortable in their shadows. And slowly, we lose the authenticity that makes us unique. Questions. Think about it. A tree never explains why it grows in a certain direction. A flower never justifies why it blooms early or late. The sun never holds a press conference explaining why it rises. Questions. They simply exist in their truth. But we humans, the most intelligent of all, spend half our lives trying to explain ourselves to people who wouldn't understand us, even if we drew them a diagram. Questions. One of the most peaceful realizations in life is that you don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't have to explain why you are single, why you are quiet, why you changed your circle. Questions. Why you left a toxic relationship, or why you chose peace over drama. People who love you won't need an explanation. They will understand your silence. Questions. People who misunderstand you won't believe your explanation. They are committed to misunderstanding you. So instead of explaining, start living. Let your actions speak. Questions. Let your calmness be your answer. Let your progress be your proof. There's a story of a man who decided to stop arguing with people who constantly misunderstood him. Someone asked him, questions. Why don't you try to make them understand your point? The man smiled and said, because they don't want to understand, they want to win. And that's what happens in life. Many times, questions. People don't listen to understand. They listen to reply, to criticize, to debate. So why waste your peace on explaining yourself to those who only want to find faults? Questions. Imagine your peace of mind like a beautiful garden. Would you let anyone walk in with muddy shoes just because they want to? Of course not. Questions. Then why let people walk all over your inner peace with their doubts and judgments? Protect your peace by choosing wisely who gets your explanations. It's okay to say, questions. I don't feel the need to explain that. It's not arrogance, it's emotional maturity, it's self-respect. There's something deeply empowering about simply saying, this is my choice, questions, and I'm at peace with it. No anger, no debate, no defense, just quiet confidence. Because when you are rooted in your truth, other people's opinions become just noise. Questions. Let me share a relatable daily example. Suppose you decide to stop attending certain social gatherings because they drain your energy. People will say, oh, you've changed. Questions. You've become too reserved. Now, one way is to start explaining, no, I've just been busy, it's not like that. But a wiser way is to smile and simply say, where's questions? I'm focusing on different things now. Period. You don't need to hand out a PowerPoint presentation of your inner peace. The more you explain, the more permission you give others to judge. Questions. The less you explain, the more power you reclaim. And remember, those who truly care about you will feel your sincerity even in your silence. They will trust your heart, not question your steps. Questions. Those who don't care will twist even your best explanations into misunderstandings. So why bother? When you stop explaining yourself, you are not becoming cold, you are becoming clear. Questions. You are not becoming distant, you are becoming discerning. You are learning to protect your peace, the most sacred space in your life. Questions. So the next time you feel the urge to explain why you are doing what you are doing, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this person genuinely interested in understanding me? Questions. Or are they just curious to gossip? If the answer is the second, smile kindly and keep your energy to yourself. Because peace begins where explanation ends. Questions. One of the most exhausting experiences in life is realizing that no matter how clearly, kindly, or sincerely you speak, people will still hear what they want to hear, not what you actually said. Questions. You can pour your heart out, choose every word with care, but if the listener's mind is filled with assumptions, insecurities, or judgment, your message will always arrive distorted. Questions. It's like speaking into a mirror that's cracked. No matter how perfect your reflection is, it will always appear broken to the one looking through the cracks. Questions. We live in a world where people don't always listen to understand. They listen to respond, to argue, to confirm their own biases. If they like you, even your mistakes will be forgiven. Questions. If they dislike you, even your intentions will be questioned. And once you see this pattern, you stop trying to be understood and start focusing on being true. Imagine a simple daily scenario. Questions. You text a friend, "Hey, are you free tomorrow?" If they're in a good mood, they'll read it as, "Oh, my friend wants to meet me." If they're in a bad mood, they might read it as questions. Why is this person bothering me again? Same message, same words. Two completely different interpretations. The message didn't change, but their mood did. And that's how life works. Questions. People don't see you as you are, they see you as they are. Let's take another example. A colleague at work gives constructive feedback. Maybe next time. Questions. You can try presenting this part differently. If the listener is open-minded, they'll say, "Thank you for the suggestion." But if they're insecure, they'll take offense. Oh, questions. So you think I don't know my job? Again, same message, different mindset, different outcome. This is why explaining yourself to everyone can become an endless circle. Questions. Because your words may be perfect, but if their ears are full of ego, your explanation will never reach their heart. You can't plant seeds of understanding in soil that's not ready. Questions. People hear through the filter of their emotions, experiences, and expectations. If someone is jealous, they will hear arrogance in your confidence. If someone is insecure, questions, they will hear rejection in your boundaries. If someone is hurting, they will hear insult in your honesty. And if someone truly loves you, they will hear love even in your silence. Questions. So the key is not to twist yourself to fit someone else's perception, but to stay grounded in your intention. Because intention is your truth. Questions. While perception is their lens, and you are not responsible for cleaning someone else's lens. Let's look at a very relatable situation. You post something on social media, maybe a quote, questions, a picture, or a thought that inspires you. Some people will comment, "So beautiful, this really helped me." Others will say, "Oh, questions, look who's acting like a philosopher now." Did the same post suddenly change its meaning? No, but it was heard differently by different hearts. Questions. You can't control how people interpret your actions. You can only control the purity of your intention. Because in the end, people don't really see the world as it is, they see it as they are. Questions. When someone is full of negativity, even your kindness can offend them. When someone carries peace, even your mistake will be forgiven. That's why wise people often choose silence over explanation. Questions. They know that words can be twisted, but peace cannot. There's a story of a farmer who had a donkey. One day the donkey fell into a pit. The villagers came and said, "Oh, poor animal, questions. It will die." The farmer quietly smiled and began shoveling dirt into the pit. The villagers shouted, "Why are you burying it alive?" The farmer didn't respond. He kept shoveling dirt. Questions. What they didn't realize was that the donkey was shaking off the dirt and stepping up. After some time, the donkey climbed out of the pit. Free. People thought the farmer was cruel. Questions. But his intention was to save, not to harm. If he had stopped to explain, the donkey might have died waiting. Questions. The world heard cruelty, but he acted from compassion, and that's how life works. Many times, people will misread your actions, but if your heart is pure, questions, the results will eventually explain what your words never could. So, what do you do when people hear what they want to hear? You don't fight their misunderstanding. You don't chase their approval. Questions. You keep doing what's right and let time reveal your truth. Because truth always outlives gossip. We must learn to stop taking everything personally. When someone misunderstands you, questions, it often says more about their state of mind than your behavior. If someone believes your boundaries mean arrogance, let them. If someone thinks your silence means pride, let them. Questions. You don't need to shout your purity into deaf ears. The Buddha once said, once someone insults you, it's like they are offering you a gift. If you don't accept it, questions, it still belongs to them. In the same way, when someone misinterprets you, it's not your burden to carry. Let them keep their version. You keep your peace. In relationships, questions, this truth is even more powerful. You can love someone deeply, but if their heart is filled with fear, they will still hear rejection. You can apologize sincerely, but if their ego is hurt, questions, they will still hear blame. So instead of trying harder to make them understand, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to step back and give space. Questions. Because understanding cannot be forced. It has to rise naturally from willingness. People will always interpret you through their own emotional climate. And that's okay. Questions. You are not here to adjust the temperature of everyone's heart. You are here to keep your own heart warm. So the next time someone twists your words, don't rush to defend. Questions. Just smile gently and let your peace speak for you. Because those who are meant to understand, you will feel your truth without explanation. Questions. And those who are determined to misunderstand, you will never be satisfied, no matter how long you explain. Remember, questions. Your job is not to make everyone agree with you. It's to live so authentically that even when you're silent, your energy speaks your truth. And those who truly listen, questions, will hear you not through their ego, but through their heart. Because, my friends, people always hear what they want to hear. But peace belongs to the one who no longer tries to change that. Questions. There comes a moment in life when you realize that words, no matter how carefully chosen, cannot always explain the depth of your truth. You begin to understand that silence, calm, steady, questions, and powerful, is sometimes the most eloquent answer you can give. Silence doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom. Questions. It means you've grown enough to understand that peace is more valuable than proving a point. Have you ever noticed that when someone misunderstands you, your first reaction is to defend yourself? Questions. You try to explain your side, to clear your name, to make them see what you really meant. But the harder you try, the deeper the misunderstanding becomes. Questions. It's like stirring muddy water. You think you're cleaning it, but you're only making it murkier. Yet when you stop stirring, when you let the water settle, clarity appears on its own. Questions. That's exactly how silence works. It allows the truth to reveal itself naturally, without force. Silence is not the absence of communication, it's the highest form of communication. It says, questions, I respect myself enough not to waste my energy on noise. When you choose silence, you are not surrendering. You are simply refusing to engage in battles that don't lead to peace. Questions. Imagine this simple scene from daily life. You're in an argument with a friend or family member. You know your intentions were pure, but they're upset. They raise their voice, throw accusations, questions, twist your words. You can feel your heartbeat rise, your mind searching for the perfect words to defend yourself. But deep down, it won't matter. No matter how clearly you explain questions, they're not ready to listen. So instead of fighting, you breathe, you smile, and you stay silent. You watch their anger slowly lose fuel, because fire cannot burn when you stop feeding it. Questions. That's the power of silence. Gaur Gopal often says, peace is not when there's no noise around you. Questions. Peace is when the noise doesn't reach within you. Silence is the bridge that helps you cross from reaction to reflection. It teaches you that not every question deserves an answer. Questions. Not every comment deserves a response, and not every misunderstanding needs clarification. Let's take a simple example from the workplace. Suppose you've done a project with sincerity, questions, but someone takes credit for it. Your first instinct might be to call it out, to explain to everyone what really happened. But sometimes silence speaks louder than any argument. Because in time, questions, truth has a funny way of coming out, through results, through observation, through people's own realizations. You don't have to shout your integrity, you just have to live it. Questions. Silence is not passive, it's powerful. It's not emptiness, it's full of strength. It's the space where emotions cool down and wisdom steps in. When you are silent, questions, you're not avoiding confrontation, you're choosing clarity over chaos. You're saying, questions, I refuse to waste my peace proving myself to those who've already decided not to see me. There's an old saying, a lion doesn't need to roar to prove it's a lion. Similarly, questions, a peaceful person doesn't need to argue to prove they're right. When you are confident in your truth, you can afford to be silent. Because silence is not defeat, it's dignity. Think about this. Questions. When you argue with someone who is shouting, they drag you into their storm. But when you remain silent, you invite them into your calm. And sooner or later, they either quiet down or walk away. Questions. Because silence disarms aggression. A wise person once said, never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, but the pig enjoys it. Some people thrive on argument and drama. Questions. They are not looking for truth, they are looking for attention. When you answer them, you give them power. When you stay silent, you take your power back. Questions. Let's look at a simple modern example. Social media. You post something from your heart, a quote, a thought, maybe something spiritual or kind. Most people appreciate it. Questions, but someone comments something negative, sarcastic or cruel. The old you would immediately reply, explaining, debating, defending. But the wiser you smiles and scrolls past. Why? Questions. Because silence says more than 1,000 words ever could. Your silence says, your opinion is not my truth. A silence also teaches patience. Questions. Sometimes people accuse you falsely or misunderstand your intentions. You want to defend yourself immediately, but you remember, truth doesn't need a lawyer, it needs time. Questions. The universe has a beautiful way of revealing what's real. And when that truth unfolds, your silence will speak volumes. People will say, you were right all along. And you'll smile. Questions. Because you didn't need to be right, you just needed to be peaceful. There's a story of a monk who was once insulted by a man in front of many people. The monk stood quietly, smiled, questions, and walked away. Later, his disciples asked, Master, why didn't you respond? Why didn't you explain yourself? The monk said, if someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, questions, who does it belong to? They said, it still belongs to the one who offered it, Pa. The monk smiled, exactly. Their anger, their words, their judgments, they offered it. Questions. I simply didn't accept. That's silence in action. When you choose silence, you are not running away from life. You're rising above it. Questions. You're not avoiding confrontation. You're embracing peace. You're not weak, you're wise. Because silence is not the lack of words, it's the presence of self-control. In relationships, questions, silence becomes even more beautiful. Sometimes, instead of arguing to be understood, just be quiet and listen. Your silence can heal. Your silence can say, questions. I value our peace more than my pride. That kind of silence doesn't build walls. It builds understanding. And then there are moments when silence is your best prayer. Questions. When you can't explain your pain, your dreams, or your gratitude, just be silent. The heart speaks to the universe in the language of silence. That's where clarity, answers, and healing come from. Questions. So next time someone misunderstands you, or provokes you, or tries to pull you into unnecessary conflict, just smile and stay silent. Don't let your words become weapons. Questions. Let your silence become your shield. Because silence never needs to prove anything. It already holds everything. In the end, silence is not about not speaking. It's about speaking through presence. Questions. Calmness and grace. It's the sound of strength that doesn't shout. It's the language of the wise, the refuge of the peaceful, and the signature of the confident soul. And remember, my friends, questions. When you choose silence over explanation, you're not losing the argument, you're winning your peace. And that's the most meaningful victory of all. Questions. One of the most liberating lessons in life is realizing that peace is worth more than people's approval. Many of us spend years, sometimes decades, trying to make everyone like us. Our friends, questions, family, colleagues, even strangers on social media. We bend, twist, and shrink ourselves to fit into other people's expectations, thinking that if everyone approves of us, questions, we'll finally feel fulfilled. But the truth is, chasing approval is like chasing the wind. You can feel it for a moment, but you can never hold on to it. Peace, however, is different. Questions. Peace doesn't come from the applause outside. It blooms quietly inside when you stop performing and start being. Have you ever noticed how much stress comes from trying to please everyone? Questions. You agree to things you don't want to do. You laugh at jokes that don't amuse you. You wear masks to fit into conversations where your soul doesn't belong. And at the end of the day, questions, you lie in bed feeling empty, thinking, questions, why do I still feel restless when everyone around me seems happy with me? It's because you have everyone's approval, but your own peace has left the room. Peace and approval rarely coexist. Questions, approval requires performance, peace requires authenticity. Approval says, be what they want. Peace says, be who you are. And when you choose peace over approval, questions, life becomes beautifully simple. You no longer need to explain, impress, or compete. You just flow, naturally, freely, genuinely. Let's take an example from daily life. Questions. Suppose you have a friend group that always wants to go out late at night, but lately you've been prioritizing your mental health, sleeping early and meditating. One night you say, hey, questions, I'll sit this one out tonight. Immediately someone teases you, oh come on, you've changed, you've become so boring. At that moment, you have two options. Questions. You can abandon your peace to win their approval, or you can smile and stay true to your choice. When you choose peace, you might lose a few people who only liked you for your compliance. Questions. But you'll gain the deeper joy of self-respect. And that's a trade worth making every single time. Approval feels good for a few minutes, but peace feels good for a lifetime. Questions. Approval is like fast food, quick and addictive, but it doesn't nourish your soul. Peace is like home-cooked food, simple but deeply satisfying. When you start valuing peace over approval, questions, you stop attending every argument you're invited to, you stop chasing every compliment, and you stop feeling guilty for protecting your space. There's an old saying, questions. You can't please everyone. You're not pizza. And even pizza doesn't please everyone. Some people like extra cheese, some like thin crust, some don't eat dairy at all. Questions. So why do we expect ourselves to be universally accepted? The truth is, even the kindest people get criticized. Even the most honest souls get misunderstood. Questions. So why trade your inner calm for someone's temporary validation? In the workplace, this plays out all the time. You might have an idea you believe in, but you hold it back because you fear judgment. Questions. Or you go along with something you disagree with just to fit in. But here's the beauty of choosing peace. When you stop needing everyone's approval, you start gaining genuine respect. Questions. People may not always agree with you, but they'll feel your authenticity. And authenticity always speaks louder than approval. Choosing peace doesn't mean you stop caring about people. Questions. It means you stop living for people. You still act with kindness, but not out of fear. You still listen to feedback, but not at the cost of your self-worth. You still love deeply. Questions. But you don't beg to be loved back in the same way. Because when peace becomes your priority, you realize something profound. Not everyone has to understand you to love you. Questions. And not everyone has to love you to respect you. Let's take a simple, heartfelt example from family life. Many people grow up under constant pressure to choose a certain career. Questions. Marry by a certain age, live a certain way. And sometimes when you make a decision for yourself, maybe pursuing art instead of engineering, questions, or choosing peace over drama, your family might not approve. They might say, you're making a mistake. It hurts, of course, because their approval matters. But deep down, questions. If your decision aligns with your peace, then with time, even if they don't understand your choice, they will respect your calm. Because nothing is more convincing than a life lived peacefully. Questions. Peace gives you clarity. Approval creates confusion. When you chase approval, you constantly shift directions based on others' opinions. One day they praise you and you're flying. Questions. The next day they criticize you and you're sinking. But when you anchor yourself in peace, you become steady. You rise above praise and blame alike, because you realize both are temporary wins. Questions. The real strength is in the stillness within. Think of a candle in the wind. If you keep adjusting it to every breeze, it'll keep flickering. Questions. But if you protect it with your hands, your peace, it will continue to shine, no matter how strong the storm. That's what peace does. It doesn't remove the noise around you. Questions. It makes you calm enough to not be shaken by it. Choosing peace over approval also teaches you one of the greatest forms of self-love. Saying no without guilt. Saying no to drama. Questions. No to fake conversations, no to energy-draining people. Because every yes to others that costs your peace is a no to yourself. And life is too short to keep saying no to your own soul. Questions. There's a story of a wise monk who was once asked, how do you stay so peaceful when so many people come to you with their problems? The monk smiled and said, questions. Because I don't let their storms enter my sky. That's the essence of peace. Questions. It's not about living a life where everyone likes you. It's about living a life where you like yourself enough to not lose your calm for anyone's approval. So, questions. The next time someone disagrees with your choices, or mocks your calmness, or questions your silence, just smile. You don't need their understanding to validate your peace. Remember, questions. Peace is your responsibility. Approval is their opinion. And opinions change like weather, but peace is your climate. Don't trade your inner sunshine for someone else's shadow. Questions. Because at the end of the day, when the noise fades and the crowd disappears, it's your peace that keeps you warm, not their applause. So choose peace. Every time. Because when approval fades, questions, peace will still hold your hand. Questions. One of the greatest journeys you will ever take is the journey inward, the journey of understanding yourself. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, heard, and understood by others, questions. Very few pause to truly understand themselves. We are so busy explaining, defending, and justifying who we are to the world that we often forget to sit quietly and ask, who am I really? Questions. What do I want? What makes me happy? What drains me? The truth is, when you don't understand yourself, you give the world permission to define you. You let people's opinions, expectations, questions, and judgments shape your identity. But when you truly know yourself, your values, your limits, your strengths, your purpose, the world's noise no longer confuses you. Questions. You stop chasing acceptance and start living with clarity. Imagine walking into a clothing store and not knowing your size. You'll keep trying on everything, hoping something will fit. Questions. But once you know your size, shopping becomes easy. You pick what suits you and you confidently leave what doesn't. Life works the same way. When you understand yourself, questions, decisions become lighter. You stop forcing what doesn't fit and you walk gracefully toward what does. Let's take a simple example. Suppose you're someone who enjoys solitude, reading, questions, journaling, or spending time in nature, but your friends always want to go out, party, or be surrounded by crowds. For a while you go along thinking maybe you'll start enjoying it. Questions. But every time you return home you feel exhausted instead of fulfilled. Then one day you realize, questions, it's not that I'm boring or antisocial. It's just that my soul recharges in quiet places. That's self-understanding. And the moment that realization dawns, questions, you stop apologizing for being different. You stop explaining why you left the party early and you start honoring your own peace. Understanding yourself is not selfish. It's sacred. Questions. It's the foundation for every healthy relationship, every wise decision, and every moment of peace. Because how can others understand you if you haven't understood yourself? Questions. It's like trying to read a book you haven't written yet. Sometimes we keep expecting people to get us. Our moods, our dreams, questions, our reactions, without realizing that even we haven't figured them out. We get upset and don't know why. We make decisions and regret them later. Questions. We chase things and then wonder what we were running after. That's what happens when we live disconnected from ourselves. The world constantly tells you who to be. Be ambitious, be successful. Questions. Be popular, be perfect. But very few voices tell you to just be yourself. Because to be yourself, you must first meet yourself. Not the version society expects, not the image people like. Questions, but the raw real you, the one beneath the layers of fear, conditioning, and comparison. Take an example from professional life. Questions. Many people spend years in careers that don't align with their passion. They follow the crowd, chase titles, and collect paychecks, but feel a quiet emptiness inside. Then one day, questions. A small voice whispers, "This isn't me." That whisper is not rebellion. It's recognition. It's your inner self saying, "You've spent enough time living for others." Questions. It's time to live for you. And when you finally listen to that voice, you start walking toward freedom. Self-understanding also brings emotional maturity. When you know your triggers, questions, you stop reacting blindly. When you know your weaknesses, you stop pretending to be perfect. When you know your values, you stop compromising them for temporary pleasures. Questions. Life stops being a guessing game and starts becoming a graceful dance. Let's take an example from relationships. Suppose your partner or friend says something that hurts you. In the past, questions, you might have reacted instantly, raised your voice, withdrawn, or blamed them. But as you begin to understand yourself, you pause. You realize, wait, this isn't really about them. Questions. This touched an old wound in me. a feeling of not being valued. And instead of reacting, you respond with calm awareness. That's the beauty of self-understanding questions. It transforms conflict into clarity. When you understand yourself, you also develop compassion for others. Because you realize that everyone is fighting unseen battles, just like you. Questions. You stop judging quickly because you know how complex emotions can be. You learn that what someone says or does is often a reflection of their inner confusion. The same confusion you once had. Questions. There's a story of a man who spent his life searching for happiness. He went to temples, mountains, and masters, asking everyone, "Where can I find peace?" One day, a wise monk smiled and said, "Questions. Go sit by the river and be with yourself." The man was puzzled but did as he was told. Days passed in silence. At first, he was restless. Then gradually, he began to notice the sound of the water. Questions. The rhythm of his breath, the stillness of his thoughts. And for the first time, he felt something he had been missing all along. Himself. That's when he realized peace was never outside. Questions. It was always within, waiting to be heard. Understanding yourself doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. It means you'll make them consciously, learn from them deeply. Questions. And forgive yourself quickly. You stop carrying guilt for every wrong turn, because you know every experience is a teacher leading you closer to your truth. Questions. In a world obsessed with being understood, stand out by choosing to understand yourself first. Because when you do, explanations become unnecessary. Questions. You no longer crave validation. Your clarity becomes your comfort. People may still misunderstand you, but it won't shake you anymore. Their confusion won't define you. Questions. Because you've already defined yourself. Understanding yourself is like switching on a light in a dark room. Everything starts making sense. Your choices, your patterns, your passions. Questions. You stop seeking direction outside because the compass is finally within you. And when that inner clarity shines, it attracts the right people, opportunities, questions, and experiences that resonate with your authentic vibration. So, my friends, before you spend your life explaining yourself to others, take the time to sit with your own soul. Questions. Listen to your own heartbeat. Ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? And when you begin to understand that person, really understand them, you'll stop needing others to. Questions. Because once you know yourself, you are no longer lost in the world's opinions. And that's when life becomes truly peaceful. Because the greatest approval, the greatest love, questions, and the greatest understanding you will ever receive is the one you give to yourself.